This podcast is brought to you by Oregon Freddy Mobile DJ.
Hello, my name is Freddy Ruiz Jr. You're listening to Weddings Northwest. I'm here with Marco Hernandez, and I DJ with my daughter, so she's the one that makes me a rock star. We're located Sandy. My daughter's in Vancouver, but we cover the Portland metro area, and I just keep it local. I'm going on 20 years, yeah.
What's one thing you wish every couple knew about hiring a wedding DJ?
That it's not just plug and play. There's just so much involved in regards to DJing a wedding. It's not your parents' wedding where everything from 20 years ago is so different from now. Just know the flow of current weddings more than anything. You can't base your wedding based on what your parents told you about their wedding. There's some similarities, but a lot of things have changed. So I'm very hands-on and I'm very visual. I like to meet a person. So I always ask, what did you have in mind for your wedding? And then based on how they tell me that, I have 200 guests coming and I would like to get people involved. And then, all right, what are your colors for your wedding? And what are your guests' music tastes? Like how far people are coming from? What's the age group? So you can understand that whole part. And then you can coordinate and help them and view their vision in regards to like when they give you music, it's, oh yeah, that would work good, that would get good. And then we can add to that based on what they give you. But at the end of the day, you want that day to be based on the music that they give you, make it sound like a soundtrack of their life based on what they tell you. And hopefully that I will explain, and then you'll be able to meet their vision. For example, what I always tell couples when they always say, how do you deal with a song request? I go, let me ask you this. Have you sent out your invites yet? No, we haven't. Okay, one thing that you can do is on your invites, ask your guests to give you a couple songs that they would like to hear at the wedding. And then that way you can screen those songs out, and then you can add whatever songs you want that they would request as part of your must plays that you give me. That way I can concentrate on having everybody's music selection in a way. It's easier to entertain the dance floor when you have all the music instead of getting random requests where the song doesn't fit with what you're playing. Sometimes I even make the comment of, we got your song request. As we go through genres, your song will be played. And then that way they're just, okay, wait till my song gets played and then we can take off or whatever. But
That was really good. I like that one.
so it always seems like they don't need help with their song, right? Because they already have some song and vision in mind. But if they do need help with the parents' dances and then the father-daughter, mother-son, when I meet with the couples, I hand out suggested songs, and then there's categories for every formality in the wedding. And sometimes that kind of helps them guide on what they want to pick. But then I also throw out there, if I know that the couple is Hispanic, then I tell them, well, maybe you want to play something that's meaningful to your parent and not just your friends. Make it more cultural and traditional, just so that it has that extra when you play the song and you're dancing with whatever the person you're dancing with. But yeah, I hand out all playlists and suggestions, and I just tell them they're all suggestions. So if you need help, I can help you pick songs from any genre in regards to songs to walk into the ceremony, songs to exit out, songs to play during introduction. There's so many. It just depends. You got to know how the couple's vibe is. You don't want to give them something that, okay, this is not totally me at all.
What's the advice for couples that maybe go too far with some of their requests?
Oh, yeah. I've had situations where, and again, it's not that you're testing their choices, but you're helping them understand what's the process behind this. I want the song, but I want to start playing at 36 seconds. And it's like, all right. And then 36 seconds, is it the chorus? Is it more intro? Is it the vocals? It's like, oh, it's just about a 5-second intro. It's like, all right. Okay, let me just ask you then, based on your ceremony setup, how far is the altar compared to from where you're walking out from? If that's even going to make sense, where your 5 seconds, people are not even going to see you yet. So be mindful of that. I always tell them. But sometimes to help all of that, one of the things I guess just to add to what me and Emily do, me and my daughter, is we offer rehearsal for the weddings, and then they get to practice walking down that aisle, because many of the venues allow you to do rehearsal, and I offer that service to do the rehearsal with all the music, with the mic set up, and that way they're even more comfortable the following day. And then at times there's, oh wow, yeah, that's not going to work, that's just way too far, or whatever it is. And there's some changes have been made because of that, because they don't put into perspective how far they are walking from, or how short is the song and stuff like that.
Rehearsal. That's so nice.
Yep.
Yeah, all the team members totally there doing the practice. Everyone else is supposed to be, instead of we did it and then the DJ is going to be here tomorrow and that's just going to work out.
Yeah.
That's how it's always been, I suppose. And I'm pretty new to the game, but I think DJs just typically don't go to rehearsals.
But I also will have to say that I don't do 50 weddings, I mean, I do 15 weddings every summer, so it's only a couple weekends out of the month that I have a double wedding. So if the time is available, yes, and that's one of the things that I always tell them.
What are some common mistakes couples make when planning their wedding music?
You are trying to entertain your 200 guests. I know that you love Drake and I know you love J-Lo, but if you're trying to entertain and keep your guests having a good time, that's not going to be their vibe all night. And you have to be mindful of that. There's a difference between what songs I listen to in the car, what songs I listen to when I go to a concert, because it's very selective. It's very individual group driven or whatever. And then what songs you hang out at the bar and they're like sing-alongs that everybody, all the goofy songs that everybody sings along to. And I think that's the mindset that you should consider and also be mindful of your guests. Sometimes they are great suggestions, but another thing that I ask the couples is tell me what songs you don't want me to play, because I don't want to play something that brings you back all memories from an old relationship. And when that happens, I just tell them, oh yeah, I can't play that one, but give me another option. And then if I can squeeze it in, and if it's in the same genre or whatever, or even if it's not, if it's a good song, but it's on the wrong genre of the music that I'm playing, I'll tell them that I'll write it down. And when we go back to hip hop from the 90s, I'll sprinkle that back in and do that. But 90% of the time, they're good suggestions.
What are some of your favorite songs for key moments? Like first dance, cake cutting, grand entrance?
When it comes to cake cutting, I always tell them, if you don't have anything for cake cutting, here's a list. I would like to get at least 5 songs. It could be from Maroon 5, Sugar, Cake by the Ocean, Def Leppard, Pour Some Sugar on Me, Dance, or just some of the songs that are just lovey-dovey, like Nat King Cole's Love. And it's just for background music, because it takes a long time to serve or to cut and to feed 200 pieces of cake. One of my favorite ones to play for sure, and I always end up squeezing it in. It's not always just for cake cutting, but even for cocktail hour or dinner music, Beyonce, Love on Top. Just that intro. Bring the beat in. That's again. Yeah.
And any other key moment songs? Grand entrance?
There's so many for like introduction songs. Like one of my favorite ones to play, but I always have the intro. It's Jay-Z and T.I.
Oh yeah,
bring
sure.
him out. That song is just so hype. Like for example, when they tell me that, oh no, we're not gonna have a wedding party come in before us, and then I'm like, why? And then they go, they're shy and they really don't want to, and then we're shy too. It's like, all right, let me give you some advice. I go, it will make it easier for you guys to walk in if you send them in first and they hype up the crowd. Once all the attention's on them, then I'll announce you guys and you guys come in. They're not just looking at you because they're looking at you. They're looking at everything that's going on. And sometimes that makes it easier for them to walk in and into the venue. And sometimes I win them over and I was like, oh, I never thought about it that way.
What do you do? What do you do after that? Like once the energy is up, wedding party's been introduced.
I always like to bring them straight into their first dance, because you got everybody's attention. Everybody's there. The hype is there. The photographer's already in the center of it all. And I always tell my couples that if they would like to continue with the father-daughter, the mother-son dance. I always tell them, if we're going to do that, have the parents be on the sideline, your father walk you down the aisle. But now have the groom walk her back to her dad. Don't let the dad walk out in the center. He walks her back out to her dad. And then he just takes her hand and puts it on her, on his hand. That moment, it's so beautiful. It brings tears sometimes, but maybe because I'm a dad, but
Are way better than a photo of just the dad getting up and walking by.
yep. And then
I always try to think of the photos. What's the photographer doing? What's the shot going to look like?
Yep.
Who's there? How long is this going to take? But yeah, you're totally right. If they just put a couple extra little details, it'll make the shots
Yep.
way better.
Yep. And then I always communicate with the photographers what I have in mind and what the bride and groom have agreed to. And then this is what we're doing. So like you can position yourself where you want to position yourself, and they're going to come this way and then meet here. He's going to put her hand on top of her dad's hand and they're going to take off. And then I always tell the groom, stay there and watch. I always tell the parents, watch their kids' dances. Don't be getting a drink. I go, you need to enjoy that moment and watch their dances, because that's how meaningful it is. I go, there's no reason behind it, but to watch.
No, you need to stay right here and you need to walk, which is true. I think you're absolutely right. It is funky and weird when they just clock in and clock out for these dances and then they get back to drinking and smoking with their friends outside. You're like, dude, this is just a one-day wedding. Hold it down right now for us. Everybody in the room, please. You can go party with your buddies like any other day.
There's that shot where the photographer's on the opposite side of, for example, the mom and the son, right? And then the photographer's on the opposite side, and then the daughter and the dad are dancing in the center. And then in the back side, you can see the son and his mom and like watching their dances. You can't make that up. You can't, those emotions and those pictures are just so epic. Yeah.
Went off perfectly. Everyone's excited. Everyone's still standing. Maybe they sit down. Now we're doing a first dance. First dance was great. Groom takes bride to her dad. They dance.
And then I always tell him that his mom should be standing up there. Both couples' parents should be right next to each other. So then when he walks her to her dad, he stands next to his mom, and then they get done with their dance. And then let's give him another round of applause to Mr. and the dad and the daughter, right? And then now at this time, we'd like to invite they've chosen a beautiful song to dance to, whatever the song might be. Kane Brown and Kaylin Brown, thank God. And then you bring them in, but you got to acknowledge one, and then you got to give it up for the next couple. And then once that's done, and then let's hear once again for the parents, and then let's hear what's the whole reason why we're here for Mr. and Mrs. And then at this time, we're going to be releasing tables. And of course, bride and groom will go first. I don't say bride and groom, right? But I always call them by the first names, followed by the bridal party, and then immediate family. And then just depends on how they have it coordinated. Sometimes we're releasing tables by numbers or whatever, but which I think that's kind of corny. If they give me table numbers, I'll walk up to the table. If you guys are ready to go, you guys can go ahead. I think calling out numbers is like playing bingo at a wedding. I think it's kind of corny, but that's just me. Maybe because I've done so many that is like, table number 2, if you're ready, go ahead. Like,
As everybody knows, everybody take attention. Look at them. Look at those guys over there. Going to go eat right now. You don't need to do that to everybody. You can just go tell them, and then everybody keep having their conversations. I always try to do the table releasing thing, and then by the second table, the hungriest people are getting in line. They don't care about me. They don't care about the bride. They're like, oh, bride and groom are eating. All right, I'm hungry. And plus I'm hungry and I have to leave. Like, I can't wait.
so I always like to know what family came from the farthest away. It could be they're here from Texas or whatever. And many times they're on different time zones. So them eating, it's way off schedule. I think it's just to let that table go before your college finishes. Is food being served, or is this going to be like a buffet style? 90% of the time it's buffet style. I would recommend to have a double-sided buffet line, because it's easier to feed 150 people with 2 lines than with 1 line. whenever it's time to do toast, there is a microphone stand that I'll bring out and I'll leave a mic on there. And then about 15 minutes, we're going to be doing toast. So please make sure you get your favorite beverage. I also know beforehand who's doing toast, so I can just call people by name. I always provide a microphone stand, and it's one of those microphone stands that you don't need two hands to adjust it, because people always bring their drink and then they got their notes or their phone, and they can never adjust the microphone. But I always tell them, you need to stay on this side, the crowd's that way. If you're going to walk around, be mindful that the speakers are over here. The microphones that I have it doesn't catch the feedback from the microphone, but that's why you have to have it so close to you.
What advice do you have for photographers and videographers to capture dance floor moments?
For example, I make sure beforehand that the photographer, all the vendors have the same itinerary, right? But in regards to, for example, if we're doing a first dance and the couple only wants to dance a minute and a half, I make sure that the photographer knows that information, because I don't want to fade out the song without knowing that the photographer has gotten their shots. So I always tell them, hey, they're only dancing about a minute and a half. Give me thumbs up when you got your shots. And then at that minute and a half, I'll just fade it down and finish the dance. So I don't know. Communication is huge, and that's how I do it.
Have you noticed any emerging trends in wedding music?
Yes, people don't share the same dance with both of their parents. People have their own individual dance. 15 years ago, it was one dance to dance with both parents, and because nobody wants to send all the attention stuff, so you dance with mom, and I'll dance with dad, and then whatever, and it's one song for both parents, so they don't do that no more, which is good. I would like to see. I've seen online where the grandmas or the flower girls. I haven't had the chance to see that yet. I know that there's less and less cake cutting with everybody. It's always done more in private. Same with the garter and the bouquet, that's going away. But I love the cake cutting. I like the bouquet toss and the garter toss, maybe because the way that I've always done it. Because again, like I tell you, you are trying to entertain people. And so, for example, I'll tell you because it works great when we do it this way. So for the bouquet toss, I always say, have one song to call whoever would like to catch the bouquet, and then one song to toss it. And then that way, people are coming up, you get in everybody. And then if you have a small crowd, then I'll put it on the bride. It's like, all right, help me out. Who else do you know that's here that it's still single? And again, you are trying to entertain everybody. So people get called out, and then if we don't have a big list, then I always tell them, like, all right, if you're claiming single in your taxes, then I don't know, you're single in my book. If you don't have one of these fancy certificates like theirs, you're still single. You have your significant other, but if you're not married, you're still single. So come on, let's come on. And I don't know, it gets people involved, and it gets people entertained. And same with the garter. For the garter, I asked them to give me 3 songs. One to remove the garter, one to call who would like to catch the garter, and then one for you to toss the garter. And it's the same thing. Like, all right, you heard my last routine. If you're claiming single on your taxes, you're single. And then you get people on.
I love that you get so involved with the crowd. I'm not like involved in an intrusive way, but like I'm here with you, and I'm just trying to help you be guided along with what we're doing next and how to participate. And that's, to me, that is DJ, MC, and announcements. When you look at the list of services for DJs or the inquiries that come in from couples of DJ, MC, and announcements, like for sure.
I get people involved, and I'm not saying that I do all the line dances, but when it comes to do the announcements for each individual thing, I mean, I'll make it known that it's a wedding, it's a celebration, it's fun, it's not just boring.
Yeah, you're not a robot
Yeah.
up there playing music, doing robotic announcements, and you're also not a comedian trying to get a spotlight doing the Marco show.
Nope.
But you're like in the crowd, you're with them. I'm here with you guys playing music. Let's have.
And then on top of that, just to enhance the beauty of what we do, my daughter She plays all the music while I'm doing all the announcements and all that stuff. And then I'll let them know that my daughter Emily is behind the DJ booth, and then I'm doing the announcements or whatever. And so the DJ booth is never left unattended. So I would say when I couldn't find someone to go with me to a wedding, because back in the day, speakers were heavier. And then somebody flaked out on me, and I just asked my daughter, "Hey, Emily, you want to go DJ a wedding with me?" I go, "I need help, not just carrying the stuff, but just helping watching the stuff as I unload the stuff." It's like, "Oh, yeah, sure."
How old was she?
She was in middle school. From then on, and then I go, one of the things that she said is, "And how much does it pay?" I'm like, "It's gonna pay. I'll pay you," because it was my daughter. Like, "I'll pay you $150, Emily." And she's just like thinking. I'm like, "So what? You want to go or not?" And I'm like, "Hold on, I just want to think what can I buy? Like with the $100?" She's like, "Yes, Dad, I'll go." And then from then on, it's the cutest thing. Who's the DJ? It's like, "Oh, it's Emily and her dad, or Marco and her daughter." And I don't know. I don't know. I'll never forget that moment. And from then on, I've never had people flaking out on me.
And that knows their way around the decks, but there's also someone special that you care about, and someone that can also like really appreciate the moments. Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah.
And I bet couples and everybody loves
Yeah.
that at the wedding too.
Just another little advice, I would say, for couples, something to be mindful of. Like I told you, my recommended, and again, suggested routine is ceremony. They go do pictures. Everybody's enjoying cocktail hour. You want people to enjoy 1 to 2 drinks, and then we bring them in. Introduction, first dance, mother-son dance, father-daughter dance, all that stuff. I always tell my couples, don't go mingle. You should go eat. Because if you go mingle, it's going to delay everything else. Because if you don't eat, it's not respectful to the bride and groom that everybody goes and eats. The bride and groom should eat first. And I would say if they eat first, then I would say you go ahead and mingle with whoever you want, but always do that after you eat. That way we got all the formalities done, and I got plenty of music that people can enjoy and dance to. And I'm not waiting because sometimes it has happened that they don't want to do their first dance right away. They don't want to do the parents' dances right away. And then I feel like I don't want people dancing on the dance floor until that stuff is done. Like, I feel like I don't want that shine to be taken away from you because little Charlie's breakdancing and the highlight of the moment. And now we got to do the parents' dances. It's like, what? Really dancing slow. So I always tell my couples, wherever you're at, that's where people are going to be. Even if you're not much of a dancer, you can do the same. The Kevin James, just dance on that one little spot. That's your spot. Stay there. But as long as you're on the dance floor, everybody's going to be on the dance floor with you.
What's your go-to song when the dance floor is died off? Out of the lull.
I would say you play some Luis Crespo Suavemente. And it has a little slow motion, and then it just jumps off, and you're dancing. Like, I don't know what the hell they're saying, but this is so groovy. Yeah. How about you? What's your song?
I try to be a little prepared
Sure.
because like I've got some songs that they want, but then I'm looking at everybody and maybe some things didn't hit. It's so hard to say like the one song that's going to connect for your 15 some odd wedding.
Yeah.
This year. But in general, I think that funk does a really good job.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that funk processes a lot of age groups.
Because it's so groovy.
Yeah, we all know it, and we all know what to do when we hear it.
Yep.
Or line dance. If they picked out, like they want to hear line dances, then I might just be like, "Hey, should we bust out a line dance? Get a hold of a photographer, let them know we're going to do this thing, and then see where it goes after that portion." But then sometimes they're just not a dancing crowd.
That is true, and that is okay. But knowing beforehand that they're not a dancing crowd, it takes away from your, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what else I can do, because that stress and all that stuff is going to show.
How do you organize your music?
Based on what couples give me, and then getting that knowledge when they went to high school, when they went to college, what ages their parents. When it's time to cocktail hour and dinner music, I always play the low, mellow, chill, some tapping feet music, nothing upbeat. I don't want nobody on the dance floor yet. But when it comes to dancing time, I always play it in genres. Play older music first, maybe start with some 70s, some funk to get the people dancing. But then as the night progresses, 70s, 80s, 90s, and then by the last hour and a half is just the younger crowd's music. That way, because again, you're trying to entertain your guests, and people that are paying for the wedding, most likely they want to go home. They don't want to stay all night, and they got to hear their bangers from their time, their 50s, their 60s and 70s, their Motowns and all that stuff. And once you knock that stuff out of the way, it's a pretty smooth sailing from there.
Thank you very much, Marco. This was a really great interview. We've got a lot of really good stuff covered. Definitely a bunch of stuff that I've learned, and some really valuable things for couples to consider. How do we find you? How can we reach out to you?
You can find me on Facebook by Marco A. Hernandez. You can also email me at marcolovesmusic1998. And I'm on Instagram with that same Marco Loves Music 1998.